Hello, Qui-Gons, Womp Rats, and anyone else. Trevin here. I wanted to do a video on Zetas. One thing I see often is, who should I Zeta? That's independent of each person, depending on what you're running in arena, depending on where you are in the game, everything like that. I wanted to go over what I consider the top 5 Zetas in the game. I think 4 of these are pretty cut and dry. One, people might not agree with. They might put something else up there, but I think most people would agree it's still one of the best Zetas out there. All right, so we're going to start off, and we're going to look at what I see most people commonly refer to as the best Zeta in the game. I disagree with that, but it's still in my top 5, and that's Finn's leader ability. You're probably familiar with Resistance, but if you're not, I'm going to go through it real quick here. They gain 30% offense and 6% defense. That's great. But what you really see the Zeta here, Foresight, great, blah, blah, blah. Whenever an enemy takes damage from exposed, reduce the cooldowns of all resistance allies by 1 and grant them 35% turn meter. So most of the resistance do expose repeatedly, so you're just hitting somebody, gaining a bunch of turn meter, reducing your cooldowns so you can expose them again. The enemy team never really moves. The reason most people say this is the best game, it's excellent in the HAAT, and you've got people doing 15, 20 million plus on there, soloing P2, soloing P4, soloing a good chunk of P3, everything like that. It's fantastic in Galactic War. For those who have issues in Galactic War, that one really makes a huge difference on there. And it's absolutely the best team in light side territory battle. Never done anything less than 6 and 6 on this. Never even come close to losing a character on this, running it in all 6 phases. This one just took a little bit of a hit because Galactic War, you don't really need much from Galactic War anymore. It's pretty easy, so it's no longer the best out there. The reason I don't say it's the best even before that is just because you're not using it in arena. It has 0 arena use whatsoever. Arena gets you crystals. I tend to heavily favor things in arena on there, but it's still one of the top 5 Zetas in the game. We're going to go into the one that people might argue with. I'd rank it at number 5 on my list, so it's understandable if people say, they'd rather have something else there. That's going to be Qui-Gon's leadership ability, which is not that. So, if they get more speed, they get offense equal to 3 times their speed, and they gain the foresight for 2 turns at the start of each counter whenever any unit is defeated. The reason I put this one in my top 5 is because Jedi aren't all that powerful on their own, and you take them and you make a team out of characters that aren't used a ton of other places. So Anakin isn't really being used many other places now. Obviously Kenobi is, but Qui-Gon isn't really being used. He's not sitting in an arena team. Ezra is in some teams on there, but he's fantastic on the Jedi team. R2 works really well on this team to really increase their offense as well. They're great in territory battles. I usually run them P1 through P5. Always get 6 and 6. Never tried them P6. It just doesn't seem like they have the damage output for P6 on there. Pretty good in the tank. They can get a million fairly easily in P3. They can get 2 million plus in P2. I've never tried them in P4, but there was a time when that was a pretty good team in the tank. Now, they've kind of there's so many teams that do so many millions and millions of damage on there. The modding for this one is interesting because normally you want straight speed, and you want offense, things like that. This one's interesting because you want the offense, but they also gain offense equal to 3 times their speed, and they have the plus 30 speed, so they definitely need an offense boost on there. They don't hit that hard. R2 is pretty important there. As much offense as you can, but with that plus 30 speed, you can kind of start to balance out, a plus 10 speed mod with good offense versus a plus 13 speed mod, things like that, because they're still going to be pretty fast. They're hard to hit. They gain foresight for 2 turns. Then if you start killing anyone, they get that foresight back. They're great in the canteen of the light side battles. Not that anyone really uses those anymore, but any events that you can use them in, they're getting that foresight at the start of every encounter. Alright, so again, that one, there's probably people out there that say that shouldn't be in the top 5. They'd replace it for something else. But I have it in my top 5 just because it creates an entire new team out of basically nothing. The next 3 I don't think are really up for debates. I'd be interested if anyone has anything to say about them, but I don't think they're really up for debate on there. So we're going to go with Hob. Han if you're not a Qui-Gon or a Womp Rat. So we've got shoots first. Plus 10% critical chance in the first time each turn he uses his basic attack. He attacks again, dealing 50% less damage. That is just crazy good. Especially since he starts off at the beginning of the match. He always shoots first unless there's another Han. He stuns automatically. Then he has another stun. He's just an all-around really good character right now. On there. And the 50% less damage, he removes turn meter if they're above 50% turn meter. So a lot of times that first shot is going to drop them below that 50% turn meter. And if we look at his basic, and 25% bonus damage and remove 35% turn meter if he has that. But they deal 75% more damage if they have less than 50% turn meter. So his first shot drops him below 50% turn meter. The second shot deals 75% more damage, even though it's 50% damage less, so it equals out to be similar damage. That happens a lot. That takes a character no one was using, and that just makes him super strong. Great arena character, great in raids, both of them. Alright, now we're going to go to R2. So this is what I personally think is the best Zeta in the game. It's in the top 5. You can rank it somewhere different if you want to. I just think for what it does, it's the best Zeta in the game. And that's going to be Number Crunch. So, start a battle, and when he's revived, Droid Galactic Republic Rebel resists all this guy in 10% of his max protection offense, max health, potency, until he's defeated. And then he also gains 10% of that stuff per each ally, so he's given even more. This doesn't create an entire new team like the Finn or the Qui-Gon one does, so it's not necessarily the most impactful as far as what it does. Where it's just like, here was a bunch of crap characters that were made a whole new team out of because of it. But if you're running light side, this is a huge reason why you're running R2. He's already got the stun, he's already got the stealth, he's already got the burn that, killed Zal. But then if you take out R2, and I used to run Jedi with R2, if R2 died, the amount of offense they did just dropped a ton. And that's really any light side team that you have, so that's why that's got my vote for the best Zeta in the game. There's a huge difference between someone that has Number Crunch and someone that does not. Last in my top 5, I have the other R2 Zeta. I put double R2 Zeta in my top 5. That's going to be combat analysis. So while he's active, whenever a light side ally scores a critical hit, dispel all the debuffs on them. So he also gives them plus 10% critical chance. So they're getting more critical hits. So again, this one isn't useful if you're running him in a dark side team, obviously, but if you're running him in a light side team, especially with a Commander Luke lead, it's a powerhouse. One you might not even notice that much. I can guarantee your opponents do, or at least they used to when they were running dark side. Not that that's real popular right now. None of their debuff stick. So you got the Commander Luke. He's giving it all the rebels counter chance. Somebody goes through and they do an AoE debuff or even a single debuff. They counter it back. They crit. It's over. If that debuff doesn't hit. So let's take Vader, for instance. Let's say Vader's not lead. I know you're not going to face a lot of Vaders, but let's say Vader does his 3 dots. Somebody comes back. They all counter him. They all clear the dots before they even took damage from the dots. That's really powerful on there. So that's going to be my top 5. So both on R2, Raid Han, Finn, and then Qui-Gon. So if you're looking for someone to Zeta and you're not sure, you're usually not going to go wrong there unless you just don't have the teams whatsoever. Again, for individual Zetas, more catered to your roster, always throw them in Gen Chat. We'll be happy to help. Zetas are a prime commodity, so unless you're Obi-Wan, who just wakes up to new Zetas every day at his door, gets them in the mail, I think he gets them from Amazon. I'll have to ask him about that. But the rest of us, we don't want to waste those. So those are 5 that are super good. All right, thanks, guys.